Hi, my name is Mary Jo, and Paloma is my camera woman and questioner.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about how to order and plant Amaryllis so you get just what you want.
All right.
These are some companies that I've ordered from before. What you want in an Amaryllis bulb so it'll perform really nicely for you, meaning 2 to 3 stalks, big flowers, is a large circumference bulb. And these companies, you get that. Just in case, I do this because they say 32 to 34 centimeter. Sometimes they're not. So get out the old sewing tape, and that's what has a right thing there. Go around the fattest part, just like you do when you measure your butt.
So it's 8 inches or more.
Now, well, no, this is whatever the metric thing is. It said it was going to be between 32 and 34, and it's 33. So you know you've got a good bulb. One of the reasons why these bulbs get so big is they prevent them, the growers prevent them from blooming year after year. So these bulbs are ready to bloom because they haven't been allowed to bloom last year. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. Because they will do much better if you soak them in lukewarm water, which we're going to do in a second, in a sink or a tub, depending on where but it needs to be warmish water for at least 2 hours. In the kitchen, I have a very deep sink, halfway full of lukewarm water, and because these are separated by color or variety, I'm going to leave them in the bag. Just make sure they're all underwater, and that's it. Leave them for about 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, you know, and that's it. And then when you get back, we can start planting. Now, they've soaked for a few hours. It's time to plant them. If you're only going to plant 2 or 3, why, you can plant them right in the pot you want. But I plant about 50 bulbs, and a lot of people do also. You want to start them in a place where you can give them warmth on the bottom. Can't do that in, 30 different pots. So I put them in these, what I call under the bed sweater boxes. They don't leak, and you can put a heating pad under them.
The heating pad is important, correct?
Oh yes, they need bottom heat. So let's say you just have 1 pot of them. Put a heating pad under that, but if you're going to put it in a clay pot, you probably need to have a plastic tray, then the heating pad.
Okay.
What we're going to do, I'm going to put some water in here. You want it very damp, but not soggy. That's the one thing that you can do to ruin these in the early stages, is get them too wet and they'll rot. The roots will rot. Because I plant so many, and it's important to me to know exactly what color it is, I have these little tags. This, remember, the loose ones were called evergreen. So I'm going to put, for now, the evergreens over here. But I have these tags and a Sharpie, so I'll write evergreen on the tag and put it around its neck. That way I'll know what's what. You're always going to get best results, new bulbs every year. And these roots that I'm kind of being rough with, it doesn't matter. These little thin dry ones, those are roots from last year. They're going to send out new ones on the fleshier ones. So you want to be slightly careful, but you don't need to. This is an easy thing to do. It's not rocket science. You really can't hurt them. Okay. So we're going to put all the gervaises in here. I know I ordered 10 evergreens, so I don't need to dig around in my pot again. And I just made sure that I put the tags on these, which again, I don't think you need to watch me do individually, but you know that's what's going to be done. Then, ooh, I'm messy. Then, this big one, plug it in here. I don't know who put those receptacles up high, but that's nice. I put it on, this is a weekend house, so I'm not here all week. So, if I were, I'd start it on medium. But since I'm not, I just put it on low. Lift it under here, and there you go. I'll probably put 1 more heating pad under this one and just 1 on this one.
Okay.
And then, we'll see you in 4 weeks.
All right, so back in a month.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, this is 3 weeks, so don't get your hopes up. This is about all you're going to expect in 3 weeks. What you'll see is some slight greening up of the tops. And when you try to lift them, they'll hang in there most of the time because there's got roots forming. But that's just 3 weeks is it. There is one tall one here that's an odd cultivar or variety or whatever that's called evergreen, and it blooms for 3 or 4 spikes come up, but they're not that showy, but they are a very excellent color. It's 4 weeks in. Now it's time to turn the heating pads off because it needs heat to start them, but continued heat will cook them. So now that we've got good root systems coming, and you can tell that if you gently lift the bulb and it tries to hang on, you know it's developed roots. And so next week, this is week 4. By next week or the week after, we're heading into Thanksgiving, it'll be time to start planting them out of these little sweater boxes and into their proper pots. Okay, moss. That's what makes the amaryllis look good in the pot. Covers the soil, and you can mound it up over the thing. You'll see when we do it, but you have to go to the side of the road and find it. So, and you don't need much dirt. You just kind of put your hand underneath. I always wear gloves because you never know what might be under here. So, but see, it just peels off. See, and you don't mind if there's some other little things, weeds or something in here, because that kind of makes it look nice. You want the biggest sheets you can get.
Where will people find moss?
Well, I don't know.
Here, we're in Accomack County.
We're in Accomack County. You can find it everywhere here, but like in Norfolk, Virginia, I found it behind the DMV and gone back and gotten it. It's not like you're stealing, you know, somebody's geraniums. It's just moss. I have some in my own yard, but I want to keep it there. So I try to get it off of public land. Oh, look there. Look at this. This is perfect right here.
That's a nice piece.
Oh my. Look at this. This is how it used to come off every year until this year.
We scored.
Oh yeah. Good eyes, Paloma.
Woo! I found this.
Oh yeah, look at this. You don't even need gloves and a glass bottle could even stick to it.
We're off to stop 5, where we'll be getting reindeer moss.
And this is just so easy to pick. It gets real soft when it's wet.
Texture, it looks almost like coral.
The thing of it is, though, it dries out and gets a stiff look to it every day, so it has to be moistened every day. But it's good for filling the blanks and to give you another, you know, another color.
Yeah.
This is that out of the sweater boxes, which I will admit I've let go too long. Your ideal thing to transplant them should be really about this size or this size or this. They shouldn't be blooming. They're just too top heavy. But here we go. We're going to do the best we can. So what you want to do so you don't destroy the roots, and you really can't do this with gloves, just lift out carefully. They really, at this point in time, don't have a whole lot of roots, but you don't want to tear them up. See, that's it. So you kind of make a little spot for it and then cover the roots because you need it slightly in the ground, but not a whole lot, because they look stupid if they're planted deep. So let's put some soil so it sits up high. Okay. Yes, that's my loudmouth dog.
That's Izzy. Say hi, Izzy.
The dog has ruined the tape.
Okay. They can be like this, different heights. That makes them look nice too. Like at least 2 or 3, and then you can put the soil around the roots. So so you don't destroy them. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Okay. I have room for one or two. Then I put one that barely started so that, you know, it'll be blooming for a longer period of time. So you got one that's barely ready. Now, this is when the moss comes in. Personally, I think that's kind of ugly. But once we start putting moss on here, until you want to tuck it under there at the edge of the soil. Okay. You can actually cover, you don't want to cover the top of the bulb, but you can tuck the moss around the sides of the bulb, and you can obviously cover up the, ooh, look at all these different colors.
Our moss finds from earlier
Yes.
today. Very nice. So we want to mix the moss.
Yeah. Sometimes I do all one in one pot, sometimes other, and you can just tuck it around like this. As long as you don't, you know, put it down in where the leaves are growing. You don't want to do that. But you can do it like this. And this moss is very, you know, it's not tender, so you can be kind of rough with it. Now to me, I have enough of this light green, so the rest is going to be dark green moss. And you don't want even this little bit of dirt showing, so just keep kind of ripping it apart in small pieces, tucking. Okay. Set it like that and push it in there.
And the only watering you need to do is with a water bottle, squirting the moss.
Yeah.
And that'll be enough water to keep the amaryllis alive.
Yes, because they don't like a whole lot of water now. All the nourishment and everything they get from this bulb. And you can tell from when we first put them in the ground, they were really large. They've gotten a lot smaller. That's because the flower stalks are feeding on that. Okay.
Oh, there's Gracie Allen.
There's Tom.
There's Tom, my crazy neighbor.
Crazy.
Neighbor.
Okay. Then, what you know you're going to need, and I'm going to go to my car and get some bamboo and put that in there. I plant first, then stake.
Okay.
This is just bamboo I cut. Again,
Where did you get the bamboo, Mary Jo?
bamboo was behind the post office here in town, which I asked the postmistress Judy, and she said, take all you want.
Well, that's nice.
Okay.
We should probably give the post office an amaryllis too.
Probably so, because I've been taking it from there for years. Now this is green. Sometimes I put it on a piece of tarp and buy some silver paint and make them silver if I want it to look kind of festive. And that's that. Then right before, last thing I do is just give this a nice spray. Gets the dirt off of it. And that's it.
And that is how you plant.
That's how you plant amaryllis.
An
And they look
amaryllis.
good last year. And in the directions they tell you that by August I should have shaken them out of here, laid them on their side in a dark place, and then after 6 weeks of that, put them in a brown bag and refrigerate them, but who wants to do that? So accidentally, year before last, I just didn't have time to do any of that. Usually I plant them in the ground and see how they let her rip and they'll bloom in the spring. But last year I just left them out like this until we had 2 or 3 frosts. And then I bring it inside. I'll put these in my basement and lo and behold, they'll bloom again. So I never have to take them out of the pot. They don't bloom as nicely as those, but they bloom again.